Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Disability Landscape. I'm Charlie Bros. I'm here again with Mark Knutson. And Mark, who do we have as our guest today?
Well, today we've got an individual who has competed internationally in wheelchair basketball. And if I remember correctly, she has competed in a variety, I think, of tried some other wheelchair sports. And actually, this is someone I've known, I've kind of watched growing up because she grew up in the hometown where I live currently in Jordan. So basically, I've kind of seen her just growing up. And her name is, I'd like to welcome Josie Aslakson. Did I get it right, Josie?
Yes, you nailed it.
All right, good. So yeah, Josie, it's going to be, I'm looking forward to catching, up with you here. And that, like I mentioned, I remember first seeing you probably like when I started noticing, I think it was more middle school, and you were very agile in your wheelchair. So I knew you could handle your wheelchair well. And I told my wife, Margaret, I said, I think we need to talk to her mom, her dad, or parents, and see if she might be interested in wheelchair sports or whatever, Courage Kenny had going. So I'm glad you did. I'm quite proud of where you're at now on that. So I guess let's start off by saying in high school or middle school, what did you do? How did you get involved in the different wheelchair sports, and what were you doing at that time?
So I was always going to the Courage Center growing up for like physical therapy or just trying out different day camps for kids because they just have like a ton of rehabilitative services there. I think I did like swim therapy for a little bit.
Okay.
And then like I was kind of like I had seen a lot of different sports and wheelchair basketball was one of them, but I was very timid and nervous to do that because I like felt very fragile in my wheelchair, and I just felt like because of my injury have pretty low bone density, so if I like fell out of my chair, I would pretty likely break my leg, And
you do? Okay.
So I just thought that like all the like high contact of wheelchair basketball was not going to be a fit for me, but I was at the Courage Center, and I was actually through a day camp, I really got interested in archery. So I was like at the Courage Center doing archery, and archery just happened to like take place next to the wheelchair basketball closet where like the players would store their equipment. And so so at the end of my archery practice, the head coach of the varsity wheelchair basketball team for like high school varsity came down, and he saw me and he was like, hey, you should really try wheelchair basketball. Like, I think you would really love it. And I just like connected with him. His name is Dan Price, and he's now the head coach or assistant coach, one of the coaches of Great Britain, their national team. They're having
Great Britain, is he really?
Yeah, he like won a lot of championships here as the Timberwolves coach at Courage Center, and then
right, yep, him and George Kiefner.
Yeah, and then he went on to win a lot of championships with the University of Wisconsin Whitewater women's.
That's right. Yep, he was at White.
Yep, and then he made the move to coach Great Britain, and they've had some staff changes recently, so I'm not sure where he's at with that, but he's definitely been an influential person to get me to start playing.
Just to age myself once again, when Dan Price, when he was in high school and he was playing wheelchair basketball, I coached against him because at that time I was coaching the Rolling Rowdies. They were just called the Rolling Rowdies at that time, and he was on the St. Paul team. So I remember coaching against Dan. Yeah, he's a really good guy in that.
Yeah, he is.
So what archery and basketball, did you get involved in track or any of the other sports?
So I like looked at track chairs. I didn't really get involved in the other sports. I like dabbled with like I said, at those day camps, I tried pretty much everything they had. So I tried tennis. I thought I was going to really like click with tennis more, but it wasn't like as much of a natural fit as I thought. And then track, I like have trouble sitting in the track chair with bending my legs all the way. Like if you've seen the track, I know you have, but whoever has seen it, it's a pretty awkward chair. So not everyone's knees can bend that far. And then, so I didn't do track because that was uncomfortable. And then swimming, I always did swimming lessons growing up. So I didn't really feel the need to like do that competitively. So it really was just basketball.
Maybe Charlie might have a question, but yeah, those track chairs, I see how people gotta fit into those chairs, and you gotta be, what is it, a contusion? I think that's the proper word, a contusion artist to get into it. And then, which I can understand, but it's like part of it, for the track, I hate to say it kind of comes down to if you have a decent track chair too, you got to have the proper equipment, because I competed in weightlifting internationally, and it was always interesting because the track athletes would give us weightlifters a hard time, but then when it came time to go traveling and all that, they had to carry their chairs around, and we're like, yeah, well, we don't have anything we have to carry around, so yeah, let's see who's really smart now. But yeah, those track chairs can be really. How was it going? Now for me and Charlie and I, when we went to high school, we went to high school in Minneapolis, and at that time, all the Minneapolis kids went to the same high school. So Charlie and I had other disabled classmates, along with all the able-bodied classmates. How was it for you being in Jordan? It's a small town. Class sizes are relatively small. I mean, typical class size about 140. But how did you find your time at going through school, being one of a few disabled kids?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting because I was injured when I was 5. So I think a lot of my childhood, I was just like figuring out like what my lane was compared to what everyone else was doing. Because of course, like if you're the only kid in like a wheelchair in your grade or in the school even at times, or because like there were times where there would be like other disabled kids, but there wasn't anyone quite like me that was like active but a wheelchair user.
Right. I was just going to say you were really agile and really didn't have a lot of physical limitations. The only really physical limitation is don't give me a freaking step, But you're right. You were very mobile as opposed to some of the other kids.
So I think that did me a lot of favors in the long run, because I'm all for like adaptive physical education and everything like that. Like I love that those resources are available, but I also kind of enjoyed the challenge of like having to keep up with my classmates or just be in like regular gym class and figure out like what I could do instead of what everyone else was doing, like playing soccer with my hands and stuff. And it definitely, it was tough sometimes to be like not able to do everything that everyone else was doing, but I like was able to channel my energy toward like other things. And I was pretty studious. So like maybe like recess and gym weren't my favorite classes because like I couldn't do some things and that was discouraging. But then like in like English class or whatever it was, I had like a really good time because I loved school.
Well, and you talked about the English class. You went on to play college basketball, and help us understand. You achieved a scholarship to where originally?
The University of Texas, Arlington.
Okay, so that's a nice area. Good weather usually, and except for this winter.
How did that process go?
And how? What's the experience of playing wheelchair basketball at like the collegiate level? How does that work out with competition throughout the country?
Yeah, so it's a totally different process than I was used to growing up, because like our high school age practices, it was 2 practices a week for a few hours because everyone across the state of Minnesota was driving to meet in like Golden Valley to practice
Sure.
as like a team. So that was a little bit different than like going to play college ball and you're attending class every day and kind of like you're out on your own for the first time, like learning how to manage your time. But then you also have to have daily practices and like lifting sessions outside of practice and shooting sessions, and you're more accountable to, like, as far as being a student athlete. That's which I enjoyed that experience of like representing my university in that way, because it like offered me a lot of really cool experiences, but it was a lot different than being from Jordan, Minnesota and driving to practice in Golden Valley, and then like no one kind of really knowing, like some people at my school knew that I played wheelchair basketball, but at the University of Texas, I felt that like there was more recognition as far as like, oh, those are the wheelchair basketball players pushing across campus right now, you know?
Yeah, because I will admit, I mean, being kind of in your same situation, but coming from at a different angle, with my son being involved in high school sports, I was always coming to watch them. And so I always felt like, everyone's looking at me. Oh, there's the disabled dad. I mean, it was great. There was no problems, but yeah, you always kind of stuck out.
Yeah, I feel you there for sure.
But it was good. Now, how did you did you get recruited, or did you kind of go find the colleges where you could possibly, play ball? I'm just trying to compare it to able body, where they got all that recruiting going on. How does that work with wheelchair sports?
So it's the same process. I did get recruited, but there are definitely less schools to pick from. In a way, I couldn't compare it. Like, I'm sure the able-bodied sports world, it's still such an intense process as far as like recruiting and figuring out where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
But it almost puts more of a spotlight on you if you're like, there are maybe like there's a handful of women's wheelchair basketball teams at colleges in the US.
On top of it, yep.
There's the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, University of Illinois, University of Texas Arlington, University of Arizona, University of Alabama, and from there it kind of drops off. And so like there are some co-ed teams and some men's teams that I didn't mention, but so you only have like a handful of choices. And then I think like the coaches on their end, they also know that like there aren't that many like female athletes coming up through wheelchair basketball. Unfortunately, I think it's growing now, but like back when I was like going through high school and stuff, there weren't many like girls starting on like high school teams, because all of like high school basketball is co-ed. So you find a lot of like high school teams throughout the nation that compete at like a national level against each other. Like most of them have like boys, they're under 18, so I'll say boys.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah, on the starting lineup, So I was lucky to come from a good program where girls got equal recognition and stuff, but that definitely helped me get recruited.
So now the big thing, you've also competed on the international stage, is that correct?
Yep.
And we all know the disappointment from last year with the Summer Olympics being postponed to this year. Are you still hopeful to get to the team this year?
Yes, very much so. It's unfortunate, like you said. Whatever needed to be done, and I totally am supportive of that. But it definitely, the momentum that we had, like I did make the Paralympic team last January and February. We have like a 2-part tryout every year. And I'd made the team, and then like not long after we found out that all of this was postponed another year. So now we have to try out again. I'm going to be trying out again. I actually have the tryout is like a week or so from now. But yeah, just that process is just elongated, but still happening.
And now, if I remember correctly, but you have competed internationally before. Why don't you talk about where you have competed, and that would be great to hear about.
Yeah, so I started trying out for Team USA when I was 17, and then it took me a few times. It's not very easy when there are a bunch of elite athletes and they only pick
Right,
12
yeah.
people. So I didn't make the team until I think maybe my sophomore or junior year of college. It's hard to remember, but it was 2017. And so 2017, that was the first year I made the team, and we went to compete in Colombia. And that was really fun. That was I had never been down that way. The furthest I had gone was Puerto Rico, and that's technically in the States. So that was super fun. And then in 2018, I competed in Germany and the Netherlands. And then in 2019, I competed in Australia and Thailand and Peru. And then this year, now Tokyo is on the list. I don't know if we have any other friendly competitions overseas.
Oh, correct,
it's all
yeah.
The schedule's up in the air.
Sure. And these, being in, a wheelchair traveler, how does that work out? I mean, a lot of countries, the U.S. is relatively progressive when it comes to accessibility, but the traveling to all these other nations, how does that work out for a person with a wheelchair and disabilities?
Yeah, well, I will say you get really, really good at it after a while. It just becomes an art of this is what I do. I go to the front of to the gate and ask for my seat to be moved up and gate check tags. And I just there's a system to it all, and you just get used to getting screened through airport security. Because you always have to get a pat down if you're in a chair. But
yeah, I remember those days.
yeah, but
I've been there too.
it is a lot more with the whole team. That's a whole nother experience. For me, I have an easy time traveling because I've just been doing it for so long now. But there's a difference between traveling yourself and then traveling with a team of
Yes.
12 other people with wheelchairs, and all of
Yes.
us actually, most of us have 2 wheelchairs. So then you're taking 24 wheelchairs. Our coach is in a wheelchair too, so you have 25. It's just it's a lot of wheelchairs.
How did you find the in these other countries accessibility? I would imagine it's nothing like the U.S. You really appreciate what the U.S. has, but what is accessibility like in these other countries?
It's definitely different everywhere you go. It makes you appreciate what you have in the US because we have ADA, of course, and not every country, I realized, has ADA. And once you go there, you just get it immediately that I think it's really hard as far as finding restrooms consistently because we're actually pretty spoiled to have bigger restrooms. It should be standard globally, but you're trying to fit through these European doors or anything,
that's right,
and
yeah.
you just, if your wheelchair doesn't fit, which a lot of people's wheelchairs are not that small, it's kind of a pain. And I just felt everything for the most part in different places I traveled was a little bit smaller. I felt Thailand was pretty good. It depends on there are really kind people everywhere, right? So if you find those people where you're traveling, they're more than willing to help you. Even if there's a language barrier, they're more than willing to help you get where you need to go, even if they need to hike you up some stairs.
Yeah, because I know when I traveled internationally too, is that you have and the coaches remind you too that because you end up wearing USA stuff, they go, behave yourself and be polite because you're representing, your country. So you get frustrated at times and you want to just rip a good, you son of a, but you're like, no, I got my USA stuff, so I got to behave. My funny story from traveling was in England, me and it was more than just weightlifting because there was a fellow athlete from the Twin Cities. She did basketball. And so we had a day off, and being we knew one another, we buzzed around and we had to find a bathroom. Couldn't find, of course, anything accessible. So we went into Wendy's and they helped us. They carried our chairs down steps because the bathrooms were down steps. And I could not believe it. We get downstairs, we both do our bathroom stuff. And then as we're about ready to get back up, a person comes out of the kitchen area and looks at us and says, "Oh, do you want to use the lift?" And I'm like, "Lift?" And I just remembered, lift is elevator in England. Apparently no one had checked with the kitchen staff.
Oh no.
Because they had a small elevator in the back. And we used the lift, but I almost want to say, "Oh no, we've got this down now. I want to crawl back up the steps."
Yeah.
But I'm like, I got my USA shirt on. I gotta be nice. So I waited until I got out and we were by ourselves, and we were just like, yeah.
Yeah. That is a really funny story. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was just, but I would imagine, like you had mentioned, you end up having to be crawled or getting up and now, but I would imagine for you, because of breaking bones, it would be hard for you to get out of your chair and try to crawl down steps and that, because you've got the concern of the bones and that. So for you, it would have to be carried. Fortunately, you're light enough to be carried in that. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay light so it's easier on everyone.
Right.
Way to be delicate, Mark.
My friend and I, my teammate, so we had our games in Peru in 2019, and then we stayed afterward to just travel around Peru a little bit and check it out. And that was we had some of the coolest travel experiences I've had, as far as people making things accessible for us. We were in the middle of nowhere in Cusco area, Sacred Valley, and we went to this zip lining place where it was just this zip lining course, and it just totally wasn't accessible because it was on a mountainside. And we had these guys just that worked there. They strapped us to their backs in these blankets. We looked like little babies tied to their back, and
Really?
they would hike us from place to place and then send us on the next zip line. And then we had another really fun experience there too, where what was it? It was we went to Machu Picchu, and there's this company down there that has these wheelchairs that are built to be they're kind of like chariot looking things where they have long poles in the front, and someone walks in front of you with the poles and pulls you. And so we basically got escorted through Machu Picchu Queens, which was a really cool experience. So I was really impressed with the adaptations down there.
Boy, I think, Charlie, we should find out how we can get a couple of those chairs so we can use them for you and I to be introduced on in the show here. That would be an introduction.
Yeah.
Well, in Japan, they're called rickshaws, okay?
Well, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny.
And so then you went to from high school, you went to Texas, correct?
Yep.
Is that where you got recruited to?
Yep. I was going between University of Wisconsin Whitewater and University of Texas Arlington, and I ended up choosing Texas. Just Wisconsin was so cold and close to home. I needed a change of scenery.
I was kind of surprised when I heard you were going to Texas too, because I don't know you well, but you always seem fairly shy. So I'm like, man, there's a streak in Josie. She says, I'm getting out of here. I'm going.
Yep. Rebel, secret
Yeah.
rebel.
Where did you go after that? You've been to a couple. That wasn't your only college stop then.
Yeah, so I didn't expect to be the person that transferred schools more than once because I just thought I was gonna be, like, let's just knock this out in 4 years, but didn't work out that way. So I went to play basketball at UTA and of course do like my studies there, but then I got really into film and screenwriting as like my degree plan. And I just felt like I wanted to go to a school that offered more for like film studies than, because I didn't go to Texas for that. It had a great film program, but not as big of one. And so then I transferred to NYU in New York, and I lived there, like went to school and lived there for about a year. But then I broke my leg pretty bad when I was like pushing around out there, and so I like had to get a medical leave of absence, and then that pushed my degree plan back 2 years. So it ended up being something that I had to make the decision, unfortunately, to not finish my degree at NYU because I couldn't afford to keep living out there for 2 more years. And so then now I just graduated this past December after 6 years of school at the University of Arizona in Tucson. And yeah, I couldn't be happier, even though it took a while.
And and what did you graduate with? And
So I still had like a literature and film emphasis, but
okay.
my degree was global studies, so it included more like nonprofit work focus and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Charlie.
So you've found yourself now at the University of Arizona, if I'm correct here, and so you're finishing your degree there. Plus, you have hooked up with another basketball team, so it's kind of fulfilling two needs for you at one time. So, what's next though? What's after college? I mean, do you look to start doing screenwriting? Do you become a waitress and decide I'm going to do this until I sell my first script? So
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually where I'm at right now because I just finished school and I just finished college basketball. And so I hopefully I'm applying to jobs right now. Just like graduated a couple months ago, so the job search is still pretty on full right now. But I'm hopefully gonna try to become the head coach for the University of Arizona, like the team that I just played for last year.
Okay.
That position opened up, so I'm gonna try as an alumni to get that job. And we'll see. If I don't get that, then I'm still like applying to writing jobs. Probably like remote writing jobs for like websites and nonprofits. I really do want to do nonprofit work, but I still love creative writing as well. So I'm always going to be pursuing like creative writing like poetry, screenplays, whatever I want to write, and trying to like get that published in my own time. But then I want to like be learning more in the nonprofit world because there's like a lot that down the line I want to be able to do as far as like being business savvy and starting my own nonprofit.
Cool.
Okay.
Very cool.
I think we're probably getting down to the end of our time here. So I do want to say one thing, just make you blush a little bit. I will say I always enjoyed it. When you were in middle school, I think, or whatever. And I would be at my because I think you graduated in between. My daughter graduated, Sarah. I don't know if you knew Sarah or not, 2012, and Kyle 2016. So
yeah, I'm right in between 2014.
That's what I thought. So I saw a lot of you when I was going to different events, but I always thought it was interesting whenever you would wheel by because you were so shy. And when I said hi to you, you would look at me out of the corner of your eye a little bit and just
My
like,
cat's gonna make an appearance. Hi.
oh, cool. But yeah, I always loved how shy you were back then, because whenever I would nod or say hi to you, you would just kind of like look at me and like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's totally how I was. It's crazy
Yeah.
to me now to like look back at like I was so painfully shy. Like it was
Yeah.
hard for me to say hi to people even, and it's luckily changed. But
Right,
yeah.
right. That's why I thought it was really interesting when you went to Texas and that.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, we should probably wrap it up. And that once again, Josie, thank you for for this time and that, and I'll let Charlie do the final wrap up.
All right. Mark, Josie, thank you both for being with us today. Josie Aslakson, sorry, from out in Tucson, lovely Tucson, Arizona. Mark Knutson, I'm Charlie Brose. We got to welcome you. Thank you for watching us here on Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.